Remember when a new movie in the franchise came out and you used to be a big defender of it? But over the years, you see the problems that everyone else sees, but somehow you don't bring yourself to the level of hatred. This is one of those times. Guys, Joshua Drake, Future Filmmaker Reviews here once again. I talk movies, TV, music, and anime, giving you guys my review in the final movie in the Transformers re-review series. That's right, final. As I said in my first review, I'm not reviewing The Last Knight or Bumblebee because my thoughts are already there and my thoughts have not changed. We're here, unfortunately, to talk about Transformers Age of Extinction, which you can see, this is the DVD copy my mom bought me, and in here I do have the physical media copy on Blu-ray. No special features though, which that's the thing when it comes to these movies.
Put the special features discs in here. Thank you.
This movie, of course, was once again directed by Michael Bay and written by Aaron Kruger based on the Toy Company. This time it stars Mark Wahlberg, Stanley Tucci, Nicola Peltz Beckham, Kelsey Grammer, Jack Raynor, Titus Welliver, Ling Bing Bing, Sophia Myles, TJ Miller, Ken Watanabe, Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, and John Goodman. Transformers Age of Extinction. Oh man. When this movie was first announced, I was like, how can they do this? Everything wrapped up so well with Dark of the Moon. But unfortunately, this movie, during the production of this movie, Shia LaBeouf said he would not return for a fourth movie because his story was done. And at first they tried to get directors like Roland Emmerich, Joe Johnston, which that would have been awesome, Stephen Sommers, Louis Leterrier, which would have been more awesome, David Yates, and more directors to get into the film. And so when it comes to negotiations and stuff, Michael Bay did not want to come back because he felt exhausted. He felt he could do what he had to do. But he was offered money, and then they once again gave him money, and somehow we got the movie we got now. And when this movie was coming out, I remember seeing Super Bowl trailers. I was like, this is going to be new, to bring some new life into the series. We got the Dinobots, we got a new cast. What could go wrong? And then I remember this movie coming out. It was one of the highest grossing movies of 2014 against a $210 million budget, and it cost $1 billion mark. But it once again got way worse reviews than Revenge of the Fallen. But Michael Bay once again has came out and says things about the movie. But let's get into the things I like and I hate, because this is a movie where when I first saw this movie, I actually really loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was the best Transformers sequel. I thought it was one of the best movies ever made. Even one of the best movies of 2014. But over the years, with every subsequent rewatch, I said to myself, I still kind of like this movie, but there are so many problems. And with this rewatch, the problems definitely show. So this movie takes place 4 years after Dark of the Moon, and after an epic battle, a great city lying in ruins, but the Earth itself is saved, humanity has picked up the pieces, and a shadowy group emerges to try and take control of history. Meanwhile, an ancient and new powerful menace sets its sight on Earth, and so basically the entire government has wiped out all Transformers to turn against them. Let that sink in for a minute. And a new group of humans led by Cade Yeager, who is an inventor who's trying to help his daughter with school and stuff, helps Optimus Prime and the Autobots, the surviving ones and new ones, rise up to the most fearsome challenge yet. A war between good versus evil, between Decepticons and bad humans, and also they have to get the Dinobots and save the world from human extinction. In this movie, I just need to say this right now. Age of Extinction is by no means a bad movie. There are some things in this movie I do like, but please be assured, this on rewatch has to be one of the most frustrating, pretty lackluster, pretty disappointing, and very overlong follow-up to the original trilogy following Sam Witwicky. Very, very flawed self-indulgence test of Michael Bay's tendencies. Going into the positives of this movie, because there's a few things I like in this movie. Once again, the action in this movie is well shot. There's some good action here. There's a lot of action that is a little overlong as far as car chases with Cade and Shane and Tessa in the beginning of the movie, and you have some good Autobot action when it's there. And the final battle in Shanghai, once again, not as big and awesome as the action set pieces in the first three, but still awesome on its own terms. And I will say the action here is once again very good for what is given. So, all of that is still very good and fun to watch. I don't mind the action set pieces here. Yes, there's a lot more IMAX usage, but the action scenes here are still very something to run home about. And I do enjoy the action in here. Some of the performances in this movie I think are good. Mark Wahlberg is Cade Yeager. Not the most interesting character aside from his story here, but I do think he does good with what he's given. Jack Raynor as Shane, which I'll get into. Irish Chris Pratt, as you want to say. He's good here. I also think Stanley Tucci, he does fine for what he's given as Joshua Jackson, which is very meta when you have characters with my first name. That's awesome. I love that. The voice actors, once again, Peter Cullen, Ken Watanabe joining, John Goodman joining. The Autobots and Decepticon cast is once again very good here. The score by Steve Jablonsky I also think is always a highlight here. You do miss Linkin Park, but I really enjoy Imagine Dragons with Battle Cry. Also, Lee Bingbing, beautiful Asian girl. Also pretty sexy too in this movie.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely.
And you know this, man!
Which that's the tendency with Michael Bay. Her character's not much, but I think she makes it fun and makes the best of what she can do in this movie. Here. I can also say the Dinobots are kick-ass and they look really cool for the budget they had. When you see them, and there are some interesting story beats here, like the humans turning against the Autobots and Decepticons and creating their own Transformers with Transformium. Yeah, they pulled an Avatar here. The Dinobots being here for a while, dinosaurs not really a thing, but they're robots. You have a seed here that will cause the end of human extinction here. Cade trying to get his daughter into college. Trying to use stuff that was going to put him through college with inventions. Him struggling to make a living. And him trying to take care of his family. And Tessa trying to help her dad. All of that, I think, in a tighter script, and a better script, and a tighter pace, and a different direction, and a different director. If you did all of that properly, this could have made for a really good sequel. With all that I just mentioned, what went wrong? Unfortunately, this movie has way too many problems in there. This is why I have to get into the things I don't like. First of all, Bay's directing here You can tell because this is not Sam Witwicky, and plus he did not want to do this, and his heart wasn't in it. He clearly does not have the same level of passion as he did for the first three. Even with Revenge of the Fallen, with all the shit that movie went through, there was still some attempt to try to put effort here. Whereas this movie, his direction, because this is not the Witwicky trilogy anymore, his direction is kind of lost here. It's not as passionate here as it was. And that's clearly because he has gone on and said he only did this and the next movie for money. He didn't have clear passion. And it clearly shows in his tendencies because not only his story, his direction in terms of story and characters is not as good, but his over tendencies is turned way the fuck up.
Relax, girl. I'm trying.
The shit's chess, it ain't checkers.
This movie is turned way the hell up. To the point of the juvenile humor being very, very unsanitary. One, of course, with the MacGuffin literally called Transformia, which is pretty fucking lazy. If you were gonna do that, you could have just called it something else. So much stuff in this movie that's crammed, which I'll get to with the biggest issue in the room.
Alright, this is just bloody stupid.
Red flag!
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Juvenile humor with, of course, TJ Miller. Funny guy, not the best comedian here, but my goodness. He in this movie is not really necessary. He serves no purpose here. He's just there to be the onslaught of hypersexualization of the daughter, women jokes, which is not very cool here. It gets to a point in this movie where the tendencies are turned way the fuck up with juvenile humor. You have a very creepy and very unnecessary subplot with Romeo and Juliet law with Tessa and Shane, which is basically her being able to date someone who's the same age as her, which I know this is not part of cancel culture, but if this was, this shit would be easily canceled.
Oh my god!
The hell, man?
Oh my god!
And a lot of the Bay hypersexualization with Tessa is so unsanitary to the point where it becomes very exhausting and not funny. There is one joke here where Cade calls out, which I'm just gonna play the clip right now.
Alright, your shorts are shrinking by the second, okay? Cold water air dry, please.
Say what you want, that part is funny because no 17-year-old, especially if you have very protective parents, should be walking around with short shorts like that on. Come on, Michael Bay, are you kidding me?
Too late. It was literally the first thing I did.
Ew!
You also have these other subplots with since Nicola Peltz is the sexy girl and Bay wants you to dig her, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not a woman hater, I'm not an incel, I love women. And I champion women for being sexy and being who they are, especially in the climate with incels and cancel culture. But this is the tendency of how to do it the wrong way, and it is not that well done. Juvenile humor in this movie just overstays its welcome very much here, and is not fun to listen to in there. The characters in this movie, despite the actor's best efforts, also Sophia Myles, which her character, she tries, but she's a nothing character here. She doesn't have much to work with in terms of a character. That unfortunately does kind of play into this movie's biggest weaknesses. The characters are not that interesting. Say whatever you want about the first three movies, but at least they have characters and villains I give a shit about. But in this case of the two villains in Savoy and Harold Attinger, they are not interesting. They are very over-the-top villains and very cartoonish, which it blows my mind that Kelsey Grammer, even though he has a cameo in Days of Future Past, he turned down a full-on role for this, where he's just being bland and over the top and just hamming the shit up in a lot of scenes. especially when he's finna die, which I was like, that was the most satisfying part because I couldn't take no more of him. But he is not very interesting as a character. Nor is Salvor, played by Titus Welliver. You could have easily done better. And it also doesn't help that the fact that Nicola Peltz, while she's gotten a lot of shit for her acting, I have seen, there are some things that she has been proclaimed as being good in. I haven't seen, but Nicola Peltz tries her hardest, and she is pretty in the movie, and she is fine for what she's given, but it's Michael Bay's directing and the script that really lets this girl down. Much like what Shyamalan did with The Last Airbender, and it makes her very unlikable until certain points. Now, you understand some of it because she's trying to take care of her dad and have a life of her own, but come on, Michael Bay, you could have done a lot better. Seriously. The villain in this movie is severely lacking in terms of Decepticon villains. Lockdown is a waste. He has some great potential, and he was looking so cool, but he was gonna, I was like, yes, this is a great villain, but he takes some back seat for Galvatron, or should I say, in this case, Megatron Reborn.
Say it with me, everybody! Nobody cares!
The minute I heard this, even when I first saw this was a chance for them to use a different villain. But because we're not allowed to use other villains other than Megatron in this movie series.
What the fuck is this?
Lockdown is a fucking waste! You fucked that up! Seriously!
How do you fuck that up? How do you fuck that up?
How do you have Lockdown here and you completely fucked that up? He could have been a fantastic villain for this first movie in the new trilogy, which is not a trilogy anymore. But you really fucked it up.
It's why you fail.
It does not help at all that the Dinobots in this movie are completely fucking useless here. They're underused here. Remember when we had the advertisements and all the posters, and also even the damn DVD cover and right here and the damn Blu-ray cover clearly said that the Autobots are gonna play a big part into this. They were gonna get some play, and I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah! Whoa! This is amazing!
They're barely in the movie. They're in this movie only for 5 fucking minutes, man.
You fucked up. You trusted us.
Why would you put the Dinobots in this movie and not even use them, Michael Bay? I'm just saying, it's a lot of things in this movie that frustrates the hell out of me. But let's get into the biggest issue when it comes to the story, or should I say what people say, character assassination. Some of the story elements I digged here, but what I give credit for trying. What I will not tolerate, and what I will not give credit for trying to do, is making the character of Optimus Prime, which I can never convince myself is good. Even from the first time, I never liked. The decision to turn Optimus Prime from a badass protecting Earth, awesome character, protecting Earth and humans from the Decepticons. You turn him from that in the original trilogy
Into a fucking hell-raising, revenge-seeking, hell-bent, angry Autobot that wants to kill humans for the death of his team. Now,
Are you suicidal?
Now, the title doesn't lie, because almost none of the Transformers from the original trilogy are here, with the exception from Bumblebee and Transformers. But seriously, appreciate the fact you were trying to do something different. Maybe it was just the first couple times I was naive and appreciated it, But with Optimus here, it is completely out of fucking character. And it clearly does not serve any purpose to this here. He still has some moments of protecting people, but it just goes against Optimus as a character. I'm sorry, the Optimus Prime I know from these movies, and a little bit from some of the cartoons, clips I've seen, is not a revenge-seeking killer. I'm sorry. I can't go along with that. I can't. I'm sorry, but that is the biggest thing I have when it comes to character assassination. And people bitch about Dewey and Luke Skywalker and shit. No. Those I can at least appreciate for being different. Whereas this, it just feels ungratefully necessary with Optimus Prime, and it clearly has no place in this movie. And I felt like that was a total betrayal of Optimus Prime and who he is as a character. The biggest elephant in the room with this movie.
Goddamned running time.
I'm not someone who hates long movies, okay? I've already discussed this on my Facebook last year. Any of you guys who follow me on Facebook, when I talked about this when Avatar: The Way of Water was getting ready to come out. Which, I was right, it did feel a little too long. And I've discussed this many times. I ain't got no problem with a long movie. Why the hell was this movie 164 minutes? This did not need to be 2 hours and 45 minutes. It did not need to be. This is where you get the full feel of Michael Bay's tendencies. No Transformers movie needs to be almost 3 fucking hours long. I can deal with a long runtime just fine. 10 Commandments, Titanic, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, The Batman, even that movie's way too long. I'm not someone who is against long movies, because I can sit through a long movie if I'm invested, if I care. Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Gone with the Wind. Even Lawrence of Arabia did not need to be 3 hours long. A lot of this movie's runtime is clearly due to Michael Bay's tendencies with he always has with the heavy exposition, unnecessary filler jokes, cutting back and forth with stupid shit, hyper-sexualized jokes about women, taking out the Optimus Prime subplot, or it could have easily changed that shit up. Him wanting revenge. The Dinobots being wasted, Savoy and shit. All of this is clearly due to the 166-minute runtime. If you just shorten this at least by 20 to 35 minutes by taking out some of that unnecessary stuff I just mentioned, or changing the plot of Optimus wanting revenge, or making Lockdown full-on the main villain, this could have been a great 4th installment. But no. Michael Bay just wants to drag it out. There's even a certain point in Chicago with the battle, and when we get to Tokyo where you think the movie is about to end, and it does not feel 100% enthusiastic and 100% flows well. And this movie definitely needed some trimming. I'm sorry. 164 minutes is too long for a movie like this. It is tried, but it is just overlong, and it did not need to be. And by the time you get to the end of this movie, it feels exhausting. Even when I first watched this movie, I was like, why is this movie so long? This rewatch, it took me 2 days. 2 days to finish this movie, because I stopped at certain points, watched episodes of Star Wars Rebels and the 3rd season of the 2000s era of Doctor Who with David Tennant. But it was worth it before going back to this movie. So in that, all of that is very problematic here, and definitely could have used extra trimming. But overall, guys, it may sound like I'm ranting and I'm trashing this movie pretty harshly, but this is not an extreme rant. There are parts in this movie I do like, and I can easily deal with this over the last night. But there are just far too many issues for me to recommend this. There are some entertaining moments as far as action, some of the performances and stuff that does make this ultimately a background noise movie and time waster, but damn, the tendencies taken full control, a very complicated and convoluted script, some interesting ideas here, some characters that could have been better, and an overindulgent, overlong runtime. It's no secret why Age of Extinction was the beginning of the end for this franchise, and it took till Bumblebee to right it wrong. And it's one of the most disappointing movies ever. This is watchable at best, but this could have been heavily better if you just took some of those issues and fixed it and made it much more easier to deal with. But ultimately, this is the second worst of the Transformers movies. It's not as bad as The Last Knight, but it's still very problematic. And for that, I have to give this movie this grade. I have not used this grade in a while. This is going to be a middle badly. Well, that's going to do it for the video that you just watched. I will have my channel here, so you would like to see anything here. Click the channel icon, subscribe for more. I will also leave a video and maybe a playlist here, so in case you want to see what I'm about. As always, stay Epictasticness, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.